Star Trek 57, M23, take 2.
It's got Star Trek. Episode 75. Discovery, Season 2, Episode 2. New Eden.
Do you have a ship? Do you, fly, among the stars?
Yeah.
And Earth?
Well, we're part of a galactic federation now, dedicated to peace, exploration, and protecting places such as your planet. Jacob, we cannot intervene. Your society has to evolve in its own way.
My entire family spent their whole lives hoping to get a confirmation that what we believed was true. And you gave me that answer. Something none of them ever got. And that is enough for me. Thank you. Because of you, we're not lost anymore.
What are we doing?
Oh, we're doing a podcast right now.
A podcast.
A podcast.
Well, I never heard of such a thing.
Well, you're participating in one.
I never heard of such a thing as a podcast.
You're currently involved in a podcast.
I know about the radio and the TV, but a podcast? Golly, what is that?
Alrighty, folks, welcome. Welcome to the It's Got Star Trek podcast.
It got a little unhinged at the end there. So.
Yeah.
Pod people.
So
Pod people.
We're pod people.
Pod people.
Don't worry, Dan knows full well what a podcast is.
Don't worry.
I'm just
Everyone's like, oh my God.
I just want people to calm the fuck down.
He's not losing his mind.
Everyone's got their hands up to their head and their hair going, oh,
Yeah,
does he know what a podcast is?
Calm it, yeah.
This is
Calm it
really
down.
awkward that Dan is being weird.
It's just, it's okay. Everything's gonna be just fine. You're with us. We're gonna take care of you. All of us in our own way.
7 red bursts spread across 30,000 light years.
Yeah, so we are talking about the Star Trek Discovery episode. You've thrown me off there, Dan. Star Trek Discovery, Season 2, Episode 2, New Eden.
That was my segue.
Directed by Jonathan Frakes.
Yes, Jonathan Frakes. Johnny Frakes. Good old number one.
Johnny
Commander
Frakes.
William T.
Johnny
Riker. William Riker, originally out of Alaska.
Oh, yeah.
Dad's an asshole, by all accounts.
Jonathan Frakes got his start.
People still live in Alaska.
I don't know about Jonathan Frakes' dad. I'm just talking about Riker's dad.
Oh, Jonathan Frakes used to dress up as Captain America and take money from people or something.
Yes.
That's what Captain America does.
That's like the real Captain America.
Yeah.
Steve Rogers.
Steve. Yeah.
So the
New Eden.
So the opening was like, New Eden. The opening was when it was doing the last time on Discovery. Mm-hmm. Tilly took some asteroid of dark matter for some reason. Colbert died in the mycelial.
He died in the
network.
previous season.
Yeah. Okay. This was just on the okay. Yeah. This was like they were saying previously.
I think they grabbed that asteroid in the previous episode.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
but the Colbert died. Yeah, in the previous. Yeah, I don't remember a lot of what happened in first 2 seasons of Discovery.
Well, season 2 of
I remember-
Discovery.
You got to check that out.
is-
I remember season
wacky.
1. I remember season 1 just a lot of insanity with like Klingons and humans that we've talked about as because of weirdness behind the scenes. But season 2, I'm like, there's a lot I don't recall about that season. I don't know.
I enjoy season 2, but there were some behind the scenes issues, and I think the ultimate plot line suffers from what a lot of time travel plot lines. It's a little in depth and intricate. It's a little hard to keep together, even if you're a super Star Trek nerd. You can totally, You can work it out if you go through and watch the season or check it out on Memory Alpha. But
So both seasons had behind the scenes issues?
yes,
Season 3 was the first one where they didn't.
Season 3 was the first thing where, by all external accounts that I'm aware of, everything was relatively smooth.
Someone might have
sailing.
sat on someone's bagel once or something, but no kind of craziness. People directors getting fired or
showrunners leaving, showrunners getting fired, switching up plots in the middle, starting one plot and not knowing exactly where it goes, suddenly having to add like an extra episode or,
So you just like change the plot entirely and
it's rare that you'll find a Star Trek series thus far that hasn't had similar growing pains.
It's rare.
Yes, it is indeed rare. That being said, though, I do really enjoy Discovery's second season. Again, the overarching plot, but there's a lot of great stuff within that plot that I think that works very well.
There's neat stuff that happens. That's for sure.
So the premise is basically Spock leaves an audio file saying he has nightmares that keep telling him to go somewhere, and he drew these signals 2 months before they appeared to Starfleet or something? Like
everyone saw him.
Everyone saw, but he somehow dreamed them up 2 months beforehand. And then we know that he's in the psych unit on Starbase 5. He put himself there. Mm-hmm. And so, they follow these signals around for some reason that were put there for some reason. We don't know why. Did we find out why? We found out about the whole angel deal, but did we find out why? Later on, we do find out why.
You find out later on.
Yeah, basically the point is to essentially to attract Discovery to these places where it needs to be in order to solve whatever the particular issue happens to be. But then that gets complicated by other things that go on. So, yeah,
it's a pretty weird season.
The cool thing about this episode about New Eden, though, and I think one of the reasons why for many people it is considered one of the best episodes of Discovery, and for many more people than that, it is considered one of the most old school Trek stories. It's somewhat self-contained, even though it's a chunk of the larger story. But you've basically got A plot, B plot. I guess the A plot would be Pike and Burnham and Owashukan on the planet doing their business, and then the B plot being Tilly. Apparently hallucinating, this character.
Oh yeah,
and I remember that whole storyline. It was kind of fun.
Yeah.
Does that continue?
Yes.
Okay.
That turns into a whole thing.
That girl's in the Expanse.
She is in the Expanse.
She plays a builder.
So Tilly. Right. Yeah. The B plot. Tilly's got. I can't remember why they took that asteroid in to begin with, but it's got some dark matter, but not all dark matter.
Because they couldn't beam it on. They couldn't beam a bit of it on. It wouldn't beam up. So,
yeah, Tilly helped rig together.
But why did they want it to begin with?
When they went down they ended up rescuing Jet Reno.
Jet Reno, yeah, that's right.
That was in the previous episode.
And they grabbed it because it was interesting, right?
Yeah, and she grabbed it, but then it wouldn't beam up, and she was like, "Oh fuck!" And then then they figured out a way for them to like grab a smaller asteroid, and
so Jet Reno wanted it.
Yeah,
I think a lot of people. Everyone
no, it was like
Tilly, and it was some fascinating shit.
It was something they had to
dark
get.
matter asteroid or some.
Yeah,
and once it wouldn't beam up, they were like, "Whoa, we really got to get some of this stuff now because it must be something funky."
And so it's kind of crazy. It was she was saying that a cubic centimeter of this Metreon charged asteroid weighs 1.5 metric tons, and that even goes into the plot of of using gravity to pull those things along. Yeah. But when they were near it on the planet,
gotta lay that groundwork.
When they were near it on the planet, I don't remember were they close to this thing on the asteroid, because
I can't really remember,
because if it was that fucking dense, it would have sucked them in
so
too.
I think this goes to, because my question to you guys is what do you think it is? Do you agree with the idea? The perception that this is kind of an old school Trek story, and if you do, what are the components that you think make it? And I'll say for one that we're here confused, even though we are ridiculous diehard nerds about Star Trek. We're nevertheless confused about exactly what the order of events and everything and what the context was, because it's a confusing story. But in this case, it doesn't matter. If this was a TNG episode or something, you would just be like, well, who the fuck knows? Why there's a radiation belt and they have this, we were taking this piece of dark matter to study. And they would just state it in the exposition,
right.
you know?
Right.
So the connecting points to the greater story are almost irrelevant in terms of telling this somewhat brief character tale about what happens when you encounter humans that are like, they don't know what the deal is back on Earth.
And I don't know if this was this probably wasn't done on purpose, but it did have that, like the set piece, however that word's defined, of just the town with this like old school looking church and like people wandering around like
rundown New England or something.
Yeah,
Do you know where this was filmed?
And people look like they were in the past, but also partly in the future. So like a lot of the original, like a lot of the TNG episodes, you know, they'd have these people on these planets that were, you know, primitive compared to the Starfleet, but they still had this alien future look to them. So that's kind of like the look of that planet with
Do you
the
know
church
where this
and
was
stuff.
filmed?
Kind of
You're gonna want to know where this was filmed.
On a
Kinda like
set
reminds me
in
of-
Toronto.
No, this was filmed in the Balls Falls Conservation Area, historic village in Ontario, Canada.
Balls
Falls.
The Balls Falls Conservation Area Historic Village.
That's even crazier than Balls Crossing, which we have near Ballston Mall.
We have Ballston and we have Balls Crossing. We have Balls Ford,
Balls Ford.
but we don't have
we do.
Balls Falls.
No, we don't.
So I think this is an improvement. I know we have a huge contingent.
We've got
of,
Hell's Bells though.
Well, we've got a huge contingent of listeners in Canada, and so any of y'all
I gotta watch what I say.
out there in Ontario who are near Balls Falls Conservation Area Historic Village, please go out there and take a picture and send it to us.
It'll last longer. Take a picture.
Yeah, and
I've heard that.
It would also engender some interaction between hosts and audience. That's the other thing I was thinking. It will last longer and sort of, can convey that we interact with our audience.
So the point of me saying all that stuff about the church and the village is that it had a vibe of like, Star Trek, we're on this village planet, I mean, how varied can it be? But by Star Trek, there's always a certain kind of look to it. I don't know.
Well, this was not the only time we've seen a similar story in Star Trek, because in TOS there's an episode called, I think Paradise Syndrome. Paradise Syndrome is a similar one where like humans, like for some reason, by some force, are brought to some alien planet, and then they don't know what's going on back at Earth, and they're all primitive-y or whatever. You also had in Voyager, there was the 37s, which I remember that episode. That was a pretty good episode, but that's another deal where, there's people taken out of time. I don't want to spoil it, but there's some people taken out of time, and, you encounter them.
People
What about the
taken out
the
of time, you
TNG?
encounter them, and then you go, whoop, dappa, whoop, 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 whoop. It's time to watch some Star Trek.
Is that a new slogan or a theme song?
It's just something, it's a little thing I made. You got to leave your mark on this world. We have a limited amount of time, so you got to leave things behind that make people remember who you were.
Boop, Star Trek.
They call Dan the Derailinator.
Okay, sorry. What were you saying,
Trademark.
Jesse? You were saying something.
TNG.
There was a TNG episode with those Irish people.
Yeah, although
that was not like the same kind of time displacement.
Yeah, there was no time displacement, but I think that vibes. The other one,
it was like an earlier contingent of human colonists.
it's a similar thing. And also trying to talk to them and convince them to do whatever the Federation
they're
tells
a
them to do.
lower tech level.
But there's an Enterprise episode called North Star, and that's another similar story where humans are sort of taken by some people and they're like put on this planet. But yeah, I think maybe the fact that they've done similar stories before is another thing that contributes to the vibe that this is more old schooly Star Trek.
Where did they get the electricity to like keep that beacon running for so many years?
It was a battery, I think.
That was what the beacon was running off of, was a battery?
It seemed like it.
Well, that was a
It
pretty...
didn't seem like it was
Probably
connected.
fusion or something.
Well, I mean, it was 2000. They have technology from 2053. So by
They probably had fusion.
Do you think we'll get fusion by 2053?
I don't think we will, but I think they did.
Okay, fair enough.
Maybe the Red Angel was the one who left that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe that was the idea. In fact, it might have been stated outright later in the.
I don't know. It seems like they could use it for other things, but maybe
Yeah.
there just wasn't that much of it.
Apparently, maybe it doesn't put out enough. Put out enough juice
Doesn't put out enough.
because they were all about
1.21 gigawatts.
they're all about getting the lights back on in the church,
Yeah.
which I guess you could say, to discuss some of the thematic elements of this episode.
Like how they could fit a few hundred people in that church, which seems like a lot of people, and then they created a planet out of it. So there was like a whole lot of incest going on as well.
I don't actually.
That was a thematic element of this episode.
I just from an anthropological perspective, I think 200 is well above the problematic limit for in-group breeding.
but someone's a cousin of someone.
but
but
it's well beyond the genetic.
There's no way to get around that.
problems.
Yeah, but it's still kind of like
That would ring the same as early groups of humans.
there is evidence. That
maybe we used to have more arms.
There is evidence that suggests that at one point in time, they call it the bottleneck, and it's when the human population dropped to possibly as low as 1,000 remaining individuals on the planet.
Wow.
And that all future people, you, me,
And you.
everyone listening, comes from those 1,000 to 10,000 people who.
When was
were
that?
Long ago. I can't remember the exact date.
Way back.
And it would be a problem if I get it wrong. So look it up.
Okay.
But
I can kind of get it.
But the point being,
it's
that,
why we look all weird and crazy because we used to be really beautiful hairy creatures.
and now we're really ugly hairy creature.
Well, like we're less hair than we used to have, but we used to have all this majestic hair on our face, everyone, and they were beautiful,
Like a lion.
yeah.
We were lion.
But it's like a mane on their face.
Yeah.
And it's humanity back then, and they were beautiful, and it felt good to the touch. It didn't feel like pube hair. It felt like fur, except it was long like a mane. It was like a mane on your face, a face mane.
There's a lot of inadvertent self-discovery going on.
We are watching Discovery.
That's a fair point. A fair point, well made.
Thanks for bringing us back to the.
Yeah. Pike's dad, we learned, taught science, but in his spare time taught comparative religion. Which is kind of interesting. I like that idea. I think that's fun. I think that's fun. I like the idea of teaching science and religion and treating them as this sort of like weird dance, these two things that dance with each other.
I like the idea of. You got me saying I like the idea.
I
like
know.
the idea.
I like the idea of
Hey,
it.
I don't
like
actually. This idea.
I don't like the thing, but I like the idea of the thing.
Yeah, put it over there. Put it over here.
Don't put it next to me though, because I don't like that thing. I just like the idea of it.
I just like the idea of it. In my fantasy life, if it became real, it would get awkward real quick.
Whoa! Wait a minute.
Yeah. Anyway, Pike. Positioning Pike is somebody who is.
That sounds like a name of a TV show. Positioning Pike.
Sounds like the name of a pornography film that I would enjoy watching.
You could make a sitcom. They don't have any porno sitcoms, so
it could be a VR modeling program where you just get your own VR version of Captain Pike.
So no story then.
Yeah.
You just pose them however
You make your
Just
own
pose
story.
'em.
Yeah.
You make your own.
Make your own story. Get out of here.
It's like playing with dolls.
Yeah,
you,
well,
you dance them around,
an
you wiggle them
action
around,
figure.
and you're like,
It's an
hey,
action
you,
figure.
and hey, you, and the other thing, and they fight.
I haven't played with a Ninja Turtle or a G.I. Joe in so many years. So
More your loss, sir.
Really, dude?
More your loss. You should be pulling those things out and playing with it.
You gotta get out there and get some.
My advice to everyone out there is,
We can have some wars.
whenever appropriate, pull it out and play with it.
Go down to the creek, build a fort.
pull it out and play with it.
Pull it out and play with it.
Pull it out.
Pull it out of your pocket. Pull it out of your bag of toys.
Ninja Turtles
Backpack.
and G.I. Joes got expensive though, just like Lego did.
You should just have the ones you used to have.
Well, yeah, but
Playmobil
they're
shit was
gone.
super-
They're thrown away.
Well, go find them.
Go find them. I'll go find you.
You could write a blog
In
about
hell.
it. You could do a YouTube video series about like finding my old toys.
And I'll just never find any of them. There'll be
the
no
gag.
payoff ever. There'll never be a payoff to this show.
It would just be one episode of you going to the dump, and they'll be like, "Oh no, man, no, you're not gonna find those are gone.
Yeah.
Well, we took 'em.
we shipped those to China.
Oh, back to China.
I don't know.
They ship our landfills out to China.
I don't know. It's probably some.
They do, yeah.
Oh, really?
It could be some shit I made.
Well, they don't do it anymore because China
was like,
they
this
upped
is
their
stupid.
standards.
Yeah.
Well, you know how there's
Now we can't send it anywhere.
Well, you know how there's like in the ocean there's the garbage island where it's all the garbage they talk about stuck together made an island. Maybe there's an action figure island where it's a whole
Strictly speaking,
action. Maybe it's an
I don't
island.
know if there's actually an island.
It's not an island. It's
but there's just trash.
It's a
everywhere.
high density of floating trash.
Okay, yes, I know, but it's like
I'm just
not,
clarifying for our listeners. It's not that Dan knows. No, we know Dan knows.
You're being a little pedantic.
I am 100% being pedantic, and I will admit that.
If he admits it, he's fine then.
But I'm just saying, just to keep things on the level.
So we're not lying to you, the listener,
No,
who
because-
we love so fucking much.
I'm just saying the audience. We've set a certain level of expectation, and we just want to make sure that everyone's got their cards on the table. We're just joshing around with some exaggerations. So we'll point out the exaggerations when appropriate. The exaggerations are for rhetorical purposes and entertainment purposes. We trust that you understand that, but just in case you don't, I thought I'd make the comment.
So thank you for making the comment and setting me straight. I didn't appreciate it first, but now I'm just so happy you did.
You look it. Look it.
So I was just saying there could be a action figure island where instead of being
Whoa.
For a moment, I thought you were going to go back to talking about Discovery. I really thought that was going to.
where the bulk of where all the ground is just made of all the action figures you can think of just twirled together. So you just
Undulating,
and it's not an island. It's just a moving mass of stuff, but you could stand on it.
Right. You could make that happen.
Some parts would just be a bunch of Jabba the Hutts.
Yeah, that could be the foundation.
When the arm falls off.
It's Jabba the Hutt's all the way down.
Jabba the Hutt, like that one arm that would just fall off.
Yeah. I remember he was all movie about you can move him.
Well, this is a long list of reasons why this episode feels old school.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Pike. Which the point I still don't believe I've been able to make, which is that they've positioned Pike.
This is where it went wrong.
Yeah, this is where it went wrong. They've positioned Pike to having a cultural and life experience interacting with people of faith, people of a religion, and while you get the impression that he himself does not hold religious views, he understands a couple things, but one of those things being that he, in order to interact with these people, in order to complete the mission, he has to communicate with them in a way that makes sense, the way that would be appreciated. And it's funny because Burnham is the xenoanthropologist, but it's Pike who's doing more of the whole, we want to approach you on your terms.
Yeah,
we're in your house.
She was doing more of the forget this religion mumbo jumbo. Tell me tell me about your science here and how you scientifically saw it.
She was like, "What if your religion was science?" And I was like, "Michael Burnham, science is not a religion."
Yeah, right. It doesn't. And Pike at one point when she says that their faith is a lie, or when he says they're living a lie, and Pike says, "Can you prove that their faith is a lie?" Isn't there something about how you shouldn't try to make people prove a negative? Or
there's two axioms.
I forget how that one goes.
There's two axioms, and people often forget the second one because they're parallel axioms. One axiom is that you can't prove a negative. And so often people say, well, you can't tell me there's no, Jesus or devil or whatever because you can't prove there's not. So that's one axiom. But the other axiom is positive claims require positive evidence. So in other words, in order to make a claim for something, you have to have some evidence for it. So those axioms go together. The second one is often forgotten. But in the case of this, it's the problem that Burnham has, and I don't think this is, I'm sure some people will criticize this and be like, she's so stupid. No, she's growing as a character. This whole fucking time through the first season, she's growing and she's learning from Pike here that her obsession with science, that's fine for her, that to be her obsession. I agree with her. I would be totally in line with her. But you're visiting these people. Forget about the being undercover and all that. Just out of sheer humanity, it's okay to be like, I'm going to have a conversation with you on your terms without kind of throwing a little hissy fit and asking questions that my captain clearly is getting uncomfortable that I'm asking.
Yeah, it's because she grew up on Vulcan. That's why she can't make a joke. Vulcans don't do jokes.
That was a good joke.
And that was a good joke.
And it was a very Spock-like joke.
Yeah, and Spock was always cracking jokes at the end of episodes, in the original. That's the one thing we miss about modern past TOS Spock and TAS Spock is he didn't crack as many jokes.
Yeah, well, he still cracks some. His, I got that good joke in,
Was that
in Star Trek 6.
Star Trek 4?
Well, yeah, there's some good ones in Star Trek 4.
Yeah,
In Star
I
Trek
guess there's
6,
a couple in the movie. I
he-
wasn't thinking about the movies. You're right, though.
He tells a
You're
joke
right,
that's
though.
but it's not as funny, but it's meant to not be funny. Anyway, go listen to our Star Trek 6 episode. It's one of our most popular episodes, so if you haven't heard
Cool.
it, go back and listen to it now.
So Pike was like turning the beacon off at one point. Wouldn't he be violating the General Order 1, which is the Prime Directive or whatever? You know,
Prime Directive means this and that and a couple other things.
Well, I mean, General Order 1, or isn't that what it was called? General.
Well, yeah, that's probably what they're calling
General
it.
Order
General
1
Order 1. General
turned
Order
into what we call the
Prime Directive, right? Because number 1 is the Prime. It's the Prime.
And
It's
on
the-
Enterprise, there's that scene where like Archer's all like, maybe one day we'll have to come up with some sort of
Yeah.
Prime Directive.
Yeah.
Some sort where he says like some sort of directive. Anyway,
But Pike, he turned off the beacon, and that's
Beacon off.
I mean, if you're turning off their beacon, I mean, it's one thing to wander around their neighborhood, being like, "I'm from the North. I'm from your planet, and I act like you."
I love on Star Trek whenever people get in disguise and go amongst the people, they're always like, "Oh, we're from the next continent over.
Yeah, right.
We're visiting travelers."
Right, visiting travelers. It's like, oh, visiting travelers.
This has been in my family for generations. It's
So-
a navigation tool.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that line was kind of weird, but I mean, it was. I get. Obviously, he was trying to hide it, but it was just. Yeah, it's been in my family for generations. It's old. What is it? What's that thing they used on the ocean? That the abacus is what you count with.
An astrolabe.
Astrolabe. Yeah, this is my astrolabe. This is with my astroglide, covered in astroglide. But turning off someone's beacon, that's not cool. You don't go over to someone's house and turn off their beacon. So that was the only time where Pike was a little bit,
Here's the thing,
not
though.
cool.
They don't debate it.
And the thing is
I think it's a Prime Directive.
I don't even remember him turning off the beacon, but that's what I have written in my notes, so it must have happened.
What's the name of the fellow they meet? I forgot to write
Jacob.
down. Jacob. All right. So Jacob turns off the beacon at the end of the episode.
Well, yes, at the end, but this is halfway through when Jacob
So
discovers them.
I don't remember exactly what they do, but I think from Pike's perspective, if the beacon is what brought them, then you could
yeah,
argue,
that's what it is.
you know,
Is the beacon was brought them, and he
But-
didn't want to or something.
the
Still,
as much as I like this episode, there were parts that aggravated me because they were so close to being. And I got to clarify here, just in case if you're a new podcast listener, I'm a huge fan of the serial format. I think most of us are. We like the Star Trek is serialized. We also like the episodic Star Trek, and this was cool because it kind of bridged that gap a little, and that was exciting to see. Most of the rest of the season does not do that. So this, if you're watching this season and you get to this episode and you think it's going to kind of be like this, it's not. Unfortunately, but there's a lot of really great stuff in here. But then there's some editing decisions, and Jonathan Frakes talks about this, that drive me up the wall. And one of them is during that fire scene where they're all learning about, they're asking these questions about, their
from
history
the
and all
All-Mother.
that. From the All-Mother. That was like straight out of Deep Space Nine or something, except when they were doing the transition, the fading in and out transitions, they were just like boom, 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 like super fast, and didn't get like, if they had done this on Deep Space Nine, they would have like paused on each person and then, it wasn't this like music video style, like just transitioning back and forth across all these different characters. That kind of thing drove me nuts because it was so close to being awesome. And Frakes talks about how in an interview maybe a couple of years back, he mentioned that Discovery, they want him to have, or at least at the time, were all about movement and keeping the camera moving and swooshing back and forth and doing all that other stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we can tell that.
They pulled back on that in the third season, right? Which was good because you can have dynamic camera movement without making everyone sick.
They do that like throughout the first couple seasons. There's just a whole lot of that.
Season 1 and season 2 has a couple egregious ones where it's really, you're just like, Jesus, I don't even know what's going on here. And it's unfortunate when it does impact the story. It impacts like being able to pay attention to it sometimes because you're just getting annoyed.
So they found this planet. There was Tilly. They were looking for this. So what is it? Okay, so they get this. The beacon thing, the signal, right? They go to the signal. They follow the signal, and then they get to the place, and they say, "Oh, the signal is like 51,450 light years away," or no, it's 150. Yes, 51,450.
This is the beta quadrant.
It's in beta quadrant, 51,450 light years away. It would take them 150 years at top speed, and so they're trying to think of ways to. What were they doing in there? So there was a part where Tilly shut off all the windows on her console when Burnham came up, and Tilly was like, "Oh, let me close these out for you." And then Tilly gave her idea of creating gravimetric distortion to act as sonar.
Wait, are you talking about her friend, her hallucinatory friend?
No, this is her on the bridge before.
Oh yeah, that right before that.
Yeah,
right.
I can't remember why were they doing that?
They were doing that to triangulate.
Triangulate the position?
So they were scanning it from one position, warping real quick to another position and scanning it, and then that way they had 3 points. So they could triangulate the exact position that way.
Of exact position of what, though?
Of the signal.
The signal. Okay, I was trying to remember what it was exactly. But so she wants to create a gravimetric distortion, act as sonar, but Burnham immediately shuts her down. She's like, it's too far away. But then she said, if we were closer, we might be able to detect gravitational redshift to calculate the position. So they warp to do so, like you said. Burnham basically said, Tilly, your plan sucks because we're too far away, and because of that, it won't work. And then she says, let's get closer so we can do my plan. So
no,
you see how that's contradictory? Because Tilly was they could have warped and done Tilly's plan just fine.
I disagree on this.
Her presentation, her reasoning was flawed. If there was go ahead.
I'm just saying that what they ended up doing was warping just probably portion of a light year over, just enough to have enough parallax, enough distance between the points to do the calculation.
They would have had to go farther if they were going to do Tilly's plan?
My interpretation of what Burnham was saying is that they would have to be really close, and because they didn't know exactly where it was, they knew the general direction, but they didn't know how far it was, and they wouldn't be able to get close enough for that.
Just like she was being a little too stodgy and sciencey with those people, religious people on Earth, she was not properly communicating in this situation.
And that's what happened. This is what she learns throughout season 2.
She should have properly told Tilly, it's like, hey, Tilly, to me, as a viewer, you can make the assumption that it was too far away, like you said, and that's very reasonable. She should have fucking said that. She should have just made that clear. Be like, no, Tilly, we have to go even farther,
There's a number of interpretations, but all of them...
It doesn't really matter.
All of them center on the idea that, yes, Burnham at this stage is still in the process of growing past this... I don't know exactly how you describe it. It's a headstrongness.
She's too Vulcan.
But I just want to, because headstrong is not a bad thing.
I think it was a script problem.
It could be. I mean, it could be in this case. I mean, it may be. You can write in at feedback@itsgotstartrek.com and set us straight.
It's such an asinine sort of thing to nitpick.
This is why would you be listening to this podcast for any other reason?
That's right.
It's like, I'm watching a television program that I really want to analyze deeply.
When she talked to Captain, and she was like, Captain, when we were on that asteroid, and then she thinks of all this stuff happens, 10 minutes of stuff happens in her brain, but really in real life, and then she pulls I never properly thanked you, when she wanted to say, I saw the angel. Yeah. But she pulled that TV movie trope of being like, I'm going to tell you the truth. I need to tell you something.
She had a burning piece of spaceship in her leg.
But then they don't say I love you. Or they don't say I saw the demon creature.
Yeah, that's right. They don't say I love you. They say
the beautiful demon creature.
Sure, it looks like rain outside or something, That's a TV trope.
Yeah.
It's a trope.
I mean,
I never properly thanked you. It's like, come on, just, don't use that. Nobody talks like that. Nobody talks like that. I never talk up and go to someone and say hey, Mom, and telling her, I killed 50 people, and then I end up saying, the salad was really good tonight. I was going to tell you I killed 50 people, but instead I couldn't bring myself to do it, so I'm going to compliment the salad. She's like, oh, well, that's nice, dear. It wasn't awkward what the fuck I just did.
In real life, do you often talk about quadritriticale or warp coils or what are the rectilinear rods? Quadritriticale, the wheat, the four-lobed wheat.
Quintatriticale.
Quintatriticale.
That's from
too.
TAS, yeah.
Yeah, from the Trouble with Tribbles episodes.
Oh, yeah.
Quadritriticale. Anyway,
I was on a mission from God.
Yes.
That's why I missed those.
Ivan Burkhoff. It was invented by Ivan Burkhoff.
yeah, Ivan Burkhoff. All right, so we've discussed this whole sort of religion angle. They don't push it too far, and I think that is one thing that we do notice sometimes in Discovery is whereas something might be the core story for another series, another Trek series. In this case, it's a little bit more for character flavor. You learn a little bit about Pike. You get to see an example of Pike being able to interact with people in a sincere and personable way.
He is personable.
You
Very charming and
it plays a little with this guy, this one guy who's all science minded, and apparently his whole family has been. It's like a tradition in their family to be all like, science is real, and there's spaceships and shit out there. But he sounds like a lunatic to everybody because he does sound like a lunatic. Just like you fly amongst the stars and stuff.
Yeah, Pike even kind of chuckles. Is like, that's what we do.
Yeah.
So that kind of it's kind of a weird way to put it, but.
Totally do that. That's what Pike was like, all right.
He's like that guy. What's that guy's name that's famous and was found naked in his room playing bongos and eating mushrooms? The guy that people want to run for president along with Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
Quadrilateral?
No, he played Dirt or whatever. What was that movie? It was called Dirt, where he was that guy on the island. It wasn't called Dirt. It was called Dirty. No. You know that guy? He's super famous. He was super famous for being a pedophile in Dazed and Confused.
Oh, Matthew McConaughey.
Matthew McConaughey. Yeah. What was that movie? He was in that movie Dirt.
I don't know what it says to me about me. I got you. I got it from the.
I think I know what you're
Dazed and
talking
Confused reference.
Yeah. But that's what you were sounding like. Pike was sounding like Matthew. What if when at the end when
I don't know.
When Pike gave him the battery.
Yeah.
And then
mega battery.
No, actually, no. At the end, first the guy, it was awesome. He like asked, if he could have the camera, and the guy just like shrugged. He's like, yeah, of course.
Let me look for it. Oh, it's right over there.
Yeah, and he hands it to Pike. And what if Pike was like handing over the battery and then was like, haha, sucker, and then it beamed away and just didn't give it to him.
He was like, yoink.
And that'd be fucked up, right?
And when Pike gave him that power cell,
that would be a good way to end it because it would be all totally like, what the fuck?
He was all like, it would be hilarious.
The whole episode would have been building up to that one joke because Pike was being so.
And they could play some funny
nice.
Benny Hill music at the end.
Yeah.
Yakety sax.
Yeah, that one.
When Pike hands him the power cell, he's basically, he's like, here's a power cell. And it'll last a long time. That's going to be a good power cell.
that's our best one.
We're going to dig that power cell.
That lady in Key West that sold us those stone pipes, and she's like, it lasts a long time.
Yeah. A long time. You're going to love this.
Stone pipes.
So, anyway, he gives the power cell to the guy. I mean, we haven't talked a lot about Jacob. He's a really great character.
Yeah, he's pretty good. I like the actor.
The actor is great. The earnestness, the sort of stubbornness,
and you can also see how like he would kind of appear to be like a kook in his in his neighborhood. It is in that planet, but he's totally on point.
But what's interesting is that they don't. Again, I think it's a bit of a drop ball in that they don't interrogate one of the best things they set up in this episode, which is the sort of the duality of faith, in the sense that Jacob essentially has faith in these old stories, faith in this idea of Earth and the spaceships,
faith of the heart.
He has fucking faith of the heart.
Yeah.
And you always, I'm always sensitive to when you're talking about like science. Science is not faith, but we're not talking about somebody living in the context of today, right? Anybody who compares science to faith will have a nice, good debate and argument about that. But in this context, he is living on primitive is not the right word. I don't like that word, but Luddite, I guess.
Yeah.
It's sort of a Luddite thing. They don't have a lot of they don't have electricity. And they have this existing.
They probably don't have running water.
Yeah. Well, they have this existing combo religion that they created, which is another thing I'd like to talk about.
It even has Wicca and Shinto in it.
But that's the prevailing dominant philosophy.
They still listed Christianity first. In the future, they're going to be like, it's kind of like dated that they listed Christianity first.
In the future,
that's what they did. That's what they did. White people did in America back then.
And it's mostly white people. It's a lot of white people. So they could have done some interesting things to play up the fact that the All-Mother's faith is almost less faith reliant than Jacob's in a sense, because he's also having to go against the prevailing philosophy of his whole planet. Basically, that's the impression we get anyway, right? So that's an interesting story that's hinted at, but they don't really pick it up and run with it. And this is a pretty short episode too, as far as Discovery episodes go. I think it was 43 minutes, something like that.
40, about something.
But
like that.
with credits and everything. Right?
Another old school feature.
Yeah, yeah. It's sort of a late '90s era length. So that's an interesting thing. The other thing was that whole combo religion. I was on the one hand, when I heard about that, I thought, is that actually sensitive to say that people got there and then they just decided, all right, we'll just squish all the religions together and cut and paste them out? On the other hand, I realized that from the context of a group of people finding themselves stranded on a beautiful and productive planet and forced to fend for themselves, if they chose, instead of fighting with each other, instead of developing, clans or whatever, if they truly opted to say, you know what, let's just go ahead and see what we share and we'll focus on that and that'll be the basis of our whatever moving forward.
You can kind of do that more realistically when you have only a couple hundred people versus thousands,
which is how it started, right?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Is like to squish the religions together when there's a manageable amount of people. It's just when you start getting into like the thousands and hundreds of thousands of people that you got people forming their own little sort of groups and tribes and things like that.
They might not necessarily have been everyone was those religions may not have all been represented in the population. It seemed like there was some line about they didn't know which god to thank, so they decided to create. They decided to thank them all. Like it was something incredibly miraculous that happened to them. They were just like, well, what the fuck? And an angel came, and so they were like, well, what religion does that angel belong to? We don't know.
Yeah, it could be a jinn.
We're just going to take them all and combine them and throw Wicca in there.
So, what was it? Burnham didn't know what a church was, so she's not at all in the know. And I like how OO says, like, my family are non-believers. It just seems like a weird thing to like label.
Her family were like Luddites, too.
Yeah, they were part of a Luddite collective. It's kind of weird to like label yourself and your family. We're non-believers. That's what believers tell people who aren't into their religion.
Put onto you.
Yeah, right.
As opposed to, I guess you could say in this context, OO was
it's fine.
Differentiating herself.
It's fine.
Whatever.
Character.
It's fine.
Wasika, she's wonderful, and I really liked this introduction of the idea of a Luddite community in the 23rd century.
Yeah, like on Earth. And they say she was on Earth.
Yeah, the implication was that she grew up in a Luddite community on Earth. And again, they did not need to expand on
just
it here.
Just a few blocks away from Starfleet Academy.
But I would really like them to expand on that in the future. Maybe I don't know exactly how, given the current context of things, but this is they introduce this idea in this episode. They take advantage of some of that knowledge as a result, right? She's able to help a little bit because she's comfortable with this kind of whatever. But I would have liked to learn more about what exactly does it mean to be a Luddite in the 23rd century, because
they never mention it again.
Yeah, they don't really mention. And the thing is, the reason why I ask is that. One issue with the sort of Luddite philosophies in general is it's not that they do not use technology. It's that they select a particular point in time, a particular range of technology, and then reject what comes after that. And more power to you if that's your philosophy.
Like technology that they saw as oppressive, I think.
Like like not the Amish. Well,
the Amish or the Mennonites and stuff. They have slightly different ideas, but I think the Amish is a good example. In
I think Amish is probably closer because don't the Mennonites keep up? Just they're like 20 years behind or something.
Something like that.
I'm making a very uninformed statement.
Mennonites don't have the strict beard growth policy. exactly like the Amish do.
But the idea being that they're still using tools, right? It's just they've chosen for a variety of justifications. They've chosen which set of tools and technology they will use, and that has evolved somewhat over the years. So the Amish themselves also evolve, but evolve in terms of their criteria for what counts as appropriate technology. And I'm really curious: is a 23rd century Luddite community like a contemporary today Amish community, or is it like the late 21st century technology?
They're all into like Nintendo games and, posters on the wall.
They got like iPads. iPods.
Yeah.
They build
These
barns out of.
MP3s are great.
They have some rollerblades.
Build barns out of iPads.
Yeah.
No, they build barns
Barn
out of
pads.
they build barns out of the boxes you get from Amazon.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
It's just like just fill them with concrete and just stack them up.
You want to know more about this Luddite community. I want to know more about Sam the Brave.
Yes. Tell me more about him, Father.
For those who live the old way
Samwise.
burn, for those who sin against us shall be cut down by our gods. When those who believe in our signs come to thee, say, peace be upon you. It's pretty exciting. So I don't know why they bothered to read the scripture.
I guess to give us some
Gives you that scripture
concept
feel.
that is being cut and pasted together a little bit, taking verses from
Yeah.
Bible, Quran, and
Oh, it's like back to Tilly. Why did they even bother having Tilly close all those windows for Burnham and then give a plan that Burnham shot down? What was the whole point of that scene? Like to have Tilly, like why was she shutting down windows for Burnham?
Another chance for Burnham to stomp all over Tilly, I guess.
Yeah, I guess it's just Tilly being, yeah, right. Exactly. It's just Tilly being, oh, I'm sorry, Michael, I'm going to close these windows for you, gee whiz, golly. And, I'm going to give this plan, okay? And then Burnham's like, no, Tilly, you suck. It just seems like they were tearing Tilly down maybe to make her plan seem all the more ridiculous with the asteroid or something. I don't know. She was holding that. They were depending on that anti-grav stuff, like to hold those asteroids. She should have at least put it on a dolly or something. You know, how she captured that little bit in that anti-gravity.
an anti-grav dolly.
And so she should have put it on a dolly because the way she was carrying it, if it gave out, it would have fallen on her.
In the previous episode, they used like this big like gravity emitter thing that they put in the cargo bay, and it's like this thing that's like in a crate, and it like all like opens up, like it's all collapsed, and they like everybody's like clear, and like this thing opens up, and they all suck in the asteroid.
And then later
That's a different episode, but it's pretty tight.
later they in this episode they poop out the asteroid.
Yeah.
You see that scene where they poop out the asteroid? I know it's childish, and I apologize in
you
advance.
mean the Discovery poops out
When they do the donut maneuver,
the donut maneuver
in a starship, when they do the donut maneuver, which was cool, the special effects and production are excellent. And in this case, too excellent, because this is the kind of thing that would have been difficult for them to portray on one of the earlier series, right? Maybe they could have done it on Enterprise, but on this episode, it looks like the Discovery shits out a dark matter log.
Well, now I'll be thinking about that every time I see it.
Go back and watch just that scene, and you'll see the Discovery. Does a little turn, and then it's all like. And the music's all swelling.
That reminds me of it's Tilly's idea to do like donuts, and she's telling Detmer to do donuts, and she's like, or like you'll be doing donuts in a starship, and she's like, yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
she's all like really like not into it. She's like, yeah, that's what I'll be doing.
That scene, that's the scene when she comes out of. Okay, so when she's in that doctor's office, that's like
It's called sick bay.
Sick bay. Shit, my bad.
When she's in the nurse.
When she's in the sick bay.
They keep sending me to a different place. I had to go here for this test. Now I got to go over here to pick up the test.
At the end of the scene, like first of all, she makes a funny face when what was it? Her name is May.
Yeah, May.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, when May's like, if only there was something on this ship that could generate a massive gravitational field, until he makes sort of like two fun faces. One is the scrunched up mouth thinky face, and then she makes the eyes go wide. Oh yes, Eureka face. Yeah. And
I love
she,
Tilly.
And she runs out the door to the left, and then there's a comedic moment where it like pauses, and then she runs past the door to the right. I'm wondering, was that an outtake?
All right,
That's got to be an outtake.
I have the whole backstory for this
because it's awesome.
I've been looking forward to talking to this. Talking about this all night. And Dan's getting excited again. Calm down, folks in the audience. Calm down. Everything's going to be fine.
Dan is okay, everybody.
This is a recording. He's here with us live now, but for you, it's a recording. He can't harm you. He can't come out your speakers and harm you. I assure you that we've tested it. We've tested it thoroughly. It's going to be fine. All right. So in this scene, first of all, part of what adds to the humor of this scene is right before she does that, right before Tilly runs out of sickbay, runs left, and then like comes running back across. Tilly says to May, she says, she's like, you're a genius. And then May is like, no, you're the genius.
Yeah.
And so she's saying, you're a genius. And then she goes the wrong way out of sickbay. And then, of course, it's a fun comedic moment and it's well performed and well timed. Jonathan Frakes ad-libbed that. That was not in the script. Jonathan Frakes just did it. And the producers didn't even see it until they were watching the dailies. You know?
Wait, Jonathan Frakes did it?
Jonathan Frakes
Just told her to do that.
Told her to do
Okay.
that. He came up with that idea. According to, it was on the Ready Room, I think. I think it was an interview, perhaps with Frakes. So it was his idea to do that, and he just filmed it that way. I don't know if he filmed it the other way too, but he was like, "Here, this is funny."
Yeah, it was funny.
Yeah, I agree. It was really funny. And Mary Wiseman is just one of my favorites. Tilly is, I love Tilly. I'm a pro Tilly, happy Tilly person.
You like pro Tilly. When May said that, no, you're the genius. Now this could all be moot if something happens down in later episodes that changes this all around. But when May says you're the genius, you think she's being all sweet and be like, no, Tilly, you're the genius. But she really is saying you're the genius because May is a fabrication of Tilly's.
As it turns out, May is not entirely a fabrication.
Right. So now, and I seem to figure like that's like not the case. So it's not really as
you find
clever.
out her deal within the next couple episodes,
and that's what I was sort of thinking happened, which is why I
you
gave
shouldn't
that
be
disclaimer.
thinking. You shouldn't be thinking. That's the problem.
Who told you to think?
It gets you in trouble, dude.
So yeah, I know it's.
I stopped thinking long ago.
Yeah, my life would probably
Couldn't
be
be
easier.
happy.
The way when Tilly runs in there with her skirt and Saru's all like, he's like, Tilly, how many times must we have this conversation? The way he berates Tilly, it's almost in this like really loving way. Like she exasperates him, but he loves and trusts her, so he puts up with it. It's definitely not like a captain subordinate relationship, even though it is, but it isn't. It's almost like she's his kid or something.
He cares for her. He respects her, and I think he identifies with her in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
He says as much both in this episode and in other episodes. He has the other great line where right after they do the jump, and it's Pike's first jump, and then Saru's all like, "You never forget your first time."
Oh yeah,
and Burnham flashes him a look like, "Ugh." It's like, do you know you just told a bawdy joke to the sexy Captain Pike?
Yeah,
but Captain Pike has that effect on people, so it doesn't surprise me he has that effect on Saru,
even on Kelpians.
Yeah,
they eat kelp.
Did you notice? Towards the end of the episode,
no.
Towards the end of the episode,
I bet he's lying. He noticed.
So, and again, we haven't really discussed it, but I don't know. I don't think there's that much to discuss because it's just more action playing out, but it doesn't add that much to the theme of Jacob steals their stuff and then they track him down and they break out.
He throws a flashbang at them.
Yeah. And
I know that game. I know that from video games.
And then
what
that
flashbangs are.
Little girl gets a hold of the phaser for some reason and sets it to
snap!
Yeah.
overload. And
right.
He all jumps on it like a grenade.
Is that what happened? Did it explode? Was it on overload self-destruct mode?
I don't think it was on overload blow up mode. I think it was on overload zap, like big zap. It's like wide beam zap. It's like you can use a phaser like a grenade if you want. I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
Because if it fucking blew up, he would have been dead. Okay.
Patrick got really stressed out.
Because I'm trying to retcon this into something that makes sense. Because if it blew up, he would be fucking dead.
Yeah, but then they say a phaser. Later on, he was like, a phaser went off. And my
I think
stomach
it was
like
zapped with a phaser.
maybe it was like a timed phaser, like with a camera.
Yeah, like with one of them shitty little cameras.
Yeah, that they still make jokes about in modern television.
Yeah, there was a whole Bob's Burgers about that recently.
I was thinking about just that.
Yeah, it was a good one.
It was.
But now his ribcage feels like the xylophone player in the
Klingon
marching band.
Klingon marching band. I wonder what the Klingon equivalent of a xylophone is. It's got to involve bones.
Yeah, but it's cool that like at this point
Those are my bones.
they're able to make jokes about like the Klingon marching band. It's just part of their
vernacular.
culture now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
It's part
probably
of their joke culture.
You know what? I'm thinking like there's probably not even a xylophone Klingon marching band. That was
It's
probably
called
just
like a mock tog. Do you play the mock tog? Yes, I play it with your bones.
It's like bones that you play with bones.
It's like, those are my bones.
Yeah, you can play my bones. Yeah, if you all want to get the bones joke, just download the accounting VR. Is that what it is?
Something like that.
Justin Roiland's accounting VR accounting game, and if you get to the last level, you'll get to learn about playing them bones. So anyway, Pike says context can alter our perspective, which great line makes sense in the storyline. It's a good lesson for Burnham because it is a key lesson in science. I mean, when you're at higher levels of science, what they teach you is, yeah, you have this data, but you can look at this data in different ways. And so you've got to nail that shit down first before you make a conclusion. And this is a mistake that I think Burnham has made often is she's got a lot of the information. It's not that the information's wrong, but she's missing some information that would change the way she would look at the information she already has, right? That's a classic error people make in the scientific endeavor. So having a scientific mind is no guarantee that you're going to like get the right answer all the time. And Burnham is proof of that. But one reason why I mention it is this line, context can alter our perspective. I was thinking about that in versus context is for kings, which is what Lorca says, which is a different perspective on context. That's more about you make the context. You if you're the king, then you are the one who's making the context that other people have to view things through.
a different context about context.
I know,
It's
right?
Two very different styles of captaining.
Back in the early 2000s, we would have called that meta.
Meta.
Now
meta is reserved for trading card games. It's like, what's the meta? What's the magic meta? what's the Hearthstone meta?
What's the meta, man?
They say the meta is the jabbering troglodyte. Jabbering troglodyte is totally in the meta right now. So all these decks are built around defending against it.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're,
Cringe.
I haven't played Hearthstone. I'm a Magic the Gathering guy.
Well, I mean,
As
there's
you know.
there's a magic meta too. I mean,
There is a Magic meta.
It's just more focused in Hearthstone. I haven't played Hearthstone in years, just because it got to be like, okay, this is finally like
It gets to be much.
It's like after a while, yeah. It's like, okay, the more it just became really tedious, and then one day I just stopped and never like played it again.
Yeah. That never happened to me with Star Trek, though.
No,
I keep watching it.
keep watching it.
And over and over and over again. And then I do a
again.
podcast about it with my
Keep doing the podcast.
So May was 16 when she died.
Yeah, she was 16.
16.
Yeah.
Lunch
She was going on 17, but didn't quite make it.
Lunch was like
Sound of Music.
Lunch was
It's a movie.
Lunch was like little earthquakes. Bounce, bounce, bounce.
That was cute.
Yeah, and Sound of Music was first it's a musical, but they made it into a movie.
I think it was a movie. Was it a music? Was it a movie that they then made into a musical?
Was it?
I think it was the other way around. I could be wrong
That
about
one I'm
that.
not sure.
I
Yeah.
think that was the era where you were making it. Welcome to It's Got the Sound of Music.
I don't know. Now you got me questioning myself. I was so sure of myself.
I am
before.
16.
Because those were
going on
the people that did
17.
was like Rogers and Hammerstein.
Yeah, Rogers and Hammerstein.
So I mean, yeah, they were definitely stage people, and then they could have done this as a movie first. Yeah.
And this is Star Trek adjacent because of Christopher. What's his name? Christopher
Pike.
Pine. Plummer.
Christopher Plummer.
He played General Chang.
Yeah.
We need breathing room.
He recently deceased.
Earth, Hitler, 1938. That was a scene from Star Trek 6. You can get more of that in our episode on Star Trek 6. I don't remember the episode number, so you'll have to go look it up.
Wasn't there?
It's a little ways back.
We need something. Wasn't there a funny movie that had a similar cadence?
Yeah, well, it's because Hitler said we need breathing room. Wir brauchen Lebensraum.
What was the scene in Young Frankenstein where Gene Wilder sticks himself with the knife?
Yes, that's when he's talking about, that he, he's not the same as his great grandfather.
Yeah, I didn't know if there was some. Never mind, it's not important. I was thinking about there was something with a similar cadence, but that signal. Did they decide that signal? They decided in that episode that signal was put there to maybe attract them to help save the planet. Now, how did the signal know to attract them within 60 minutes of when it was going to fall?
Because of time travel, bro. You can do whatever.
Oh, yeah, because of
November
time
5th,
travel.
1955.
Oh, but I mean...
November 5th, 1955.
Okay, but those signals were up way for a long time before they actually went there.
Like 300 years.
They got Starlink.
So
they got the Starlink action.
Yeah, so
Elon Musk. That's why Tilly went to Musk High
that's
School.
right.
So why?
Why?
If you put the signal up 300 years before this planet gets destroyed, how are you going to hope to expect that signal is going to attract them in time?
They didn't. The signals all appeared at the same time.
Right. That's what I said.
So they weren't up for 300 years.
The red signal.
You said 300. You guys said 300.
No, the people had been there for 300 years.
No, I wasn't talking about that. I was talking about the signal that attracted...
You're talking about Jacob's signal.
I was talking about the signal.
That's
stress call.
That's different.
No, wasn't the signal what attracted them? The signal was not...
What's the frequency?
You're talking about the red dots, the red flashes.
What attracted them to the planet? They decided...
Captain Pike.
No, what they decided at one point, they were like, maybe the signal is here. The signal they saw from...
that's where they were putting
52,000 light years away?
152,000.
Or 51,450. It was 150.
50.
It was 150. It was 150 years of top speed. Look, that's the reason.
Yeah, you're right.
Not even our grandchildren will get there.
Yeah, they're like when the Q knocked the TNG Enterprise all far away, and they were like, "I could knock you so far." Or it wasn't Q who did that? It was some planet did that.
No, Q did that.
Was it Q?
Q did.
It would be your you have grandchildren.
Or that alien that was messing with their propulsion systems in that episode.
The Traveler.
Yeah, the fucking Traveler. So no, okay. Look, Discovery found that place, and they were like, "Huh." You know, because it's like, what are the chances we find this signal? And oh, hey, by the way, there's within 60 minutes, this radioactive debris is going to land on the planet. What are the odds? And so they're postulating, well, maybe this signal was put there to attract us in order to save the planet. When was that signal put there? Because if it was put there...
right before this episode. Like the season 2 starts with these signals all appearing, and within the span of, it's months or days or weeks.
See, I know it's within the episode, but right, exactly. Yeah. If it's months,
the signals appear and disappear, and then they start picking them up.
So like if that signal was put there to attract Discovery to save the planet,
because the person who put the signal there knows that Discovery has a spore drive.
Yeah, but if they put it months in advance, how are they going to know that Discovery?
They didn't put it months in advance. They remember.
You just said they put it months in advance.
Look, forget about the months. Who the hell am I to say anything factual?
My whole point is just
who the hell am I?
I don't think this signal is an effective way to keep them to help have them save the planet, because like they would have to see it right away and then go to the signal.
But they got there.
Yeah, and what are the odds that they got there? I'm saying that seems unlikely that they would get there within 60 minutes of it happening.
You got to watch it till the end, man.
You put me in a very difficult position here.
Is this a spoiler alert thing?
No, it's not even about the spoilers. The difficult position for me is that, as I stated earlier, this whole plot is problematic for precisely the reasons you're talking about.
Oh,
However,
and that's why I was pointing it out.
But at the same time, the reason it's a difficult position is you stating that has immediately turned on my Star Trek brain to be like, well, here is the specific reasons why it works, because there is some framework in which this makes sense, that we're either missing information or whatever. So it's not that it doesn't make sense in the end. It's that it's convoluted, and as the story unfolds,
it's still kind of weird at the end.
It is kind of. It's all just mystery style, and then the solution to the mystery is like
it's even weirder. Yeah.
It's like, okay,
like, whatever.
I've seen this season a few times, and normally I remember the shit out of these things, but for some reason it escapes me, and the only explanation I have is the complexity and the brilliance no. See, that's the thing is not if the audience does not understand
the luminescence,
that's a problem, right? There are shows that go too far with it. Like, I like the first season of Westworld. I thought, this is really clever. Ooh, sneaky. Ooh, blah blah blah. And then the second season of Westworld, I'm like, I don't know what the fuck is going on. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it turns out you have to like watch each episode 5 times and go to the internet to determine what's happening.
And all
or like The Witcher.
and all I want to know is
That one I like, though.
All I want to know is how did they arrive 60 minutes within just 60 minutes within it crashing? Because an event like that, presumably space events take billions of years for them to develop.
You're just gonna have faith of the heart in the in the writers and in the science of Star Trek.
But yeah, so
You just take it as
take
is.
it. Don't worry about the odds.
Don't think about it. We're telling you about this whole
Don't
thinking.
think
All
of-
this stress you're feeling is because you're thinking.
You got to
thinking
get
about-
from there. to
I gotta
there.
embrace all the religions and get on that planet and have faith and of the heart and of Shinto or whatever.
And Wicca.
Yeah,
What was
Shinto,
it?
Wicca, Buddhism, Hinduism, Judaism,
And then all the
Islam.
faith. I can have
Christianity, which was listed first. Of
and
course.
I can have Jacob's science faith, which is not real faith or not real science, but they sound like each other.
Yeah, the only problem I had with this episode from that perspective, I liked the story they were telling, but I'm also watching it and I'm like, you know what? It would not be unreasonable for these people to have like a planet where like Jacob could say this shit. Like it's not like they're treating him badly or anything, but they're kind of like giving him shit about it a lot. And it's like, this would be an even cooler planet if it was like, yeah, no, we're cool with Jacob. He's a good guy. Yeah, he's got some different ideas, but more power to him. Who knows? Maybe it'll turn out like he's right. There's spaceships. And guess what? Even if there are spaceships, doesn't mean I didn't see a fucking angel. Like, or my great-grandmothers didn't see a fucking angel, so anyway, that's a minor quibble because if it was like that, there would not be much story. It would just be like a documentary about a very pleasant planet that was briefly invaded by some agitating future people. Well, contemporary. God, Jesus, it's so fucking confusing. You know what I mean? So Pike says to Jacob, "I hope we meet again, Jacob." And
Pike
Jacob
says to Jacob, he says, sorry. No, go ahead. Sorry.
And Jacob says, "I know we will." And it was an interesting line in there because they didn't have to say that.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, it would be kind of cool. I know they hadn't fully conceived of this necessarily at the time, but it would be neat if they went back there on Strange New Worlds or something.
I think we're going to have to hold them to that.
I think so
Yeah,
too.
I was thinking that too about how it was weird and unnecessary to throw that in there unless they plan to follow through with it.
And Strange New Worlds, by all accounts, is going to be much more episodic. It's basically going to be an episodic show, but with some overarching character beats and growth and stories and stuff. But for the most part, the adventures are going to go planet adventure.
And the Cage has already happened. The Cage episode is already happened.
Cage it'll be post Cage,
If
pre.
you watch more of the second season, they get into a little bit of that.
Oh yeah,
too.
that's a good episode. The one you're talking
that's
about.
pretty cool.
So that they'll have that opportunity to maybe go back to this planet and maybe interrogate some of those ideas they introduced here in terms of the science versus religion and Ludditism and this, that, and the other thing. And they give them the power cells. So maybe, they'll use that to, Jacob will be able to fabricate more power cells maybe and start maybe there'll be a war or something because now there's the Luddites and the technocrats.
Techno monsters. Techno humans doing the techno.
Jacob's never going to
dance.
meet Michael Burnham again.
Yeah, he will never meet her again.
No spoilers. I already talked about that.
Astromycology taught Stamets that nothing is truly gone. He said fungi. He didn't say fungi.
Well,
He said fungi are the universe's recyclers. This is how termination begets creation. It's why life is eternal. It's kind of neat, but it's also kind of like weird and kind of bullshitty.
It's a little pop philosophy.
Yeah, exactly.
style.
Right.
This was one issue in the series, and again, this is because of decisions made during the first season that I think maybe they wanted to go back on. One of them being the death of Culber, which was, I think, problematic in two ways. First of all, Culber is a great character. Right? I mean, wonderful actor.
Were they planning to keep him killed originally?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know enough about what happened in the background, but you get the impression that they went, even if they said they planned this, it's almost hard to believe that they were like, let's have this convoluted way because, spoiler alert, which it's an old season by now, Culber comes back, right? So Culber comes back and is related to the mushrooms. You can already guess what's going to happen because he's already talking about having seen him and stuff, So I don't know how much they gain from the story of Culber's dead and now he's brought back to life, and then they play around with that a little bit.
Yeah, he occasionally every once in a while talks about how, oh yeah, I was dead once, you know,
Yeah.
and like every once in a while I throw it in an episode and it's just kind of like, okay, is this your? I guess they use it as a way of him relating to characters,
And
but
they
it's
do
not.
some-
It's unnecessary.
They do some good character stuff later in the second season with Culber in terms of he feels like a different person, and that it affects the relationship with Stamets, and so there's interesting stuff that results from it. But from a thematic or philosophical sense, it's like I don't know what this says necessarily. It seems more like they needed to bring this character back, and again, the serialized storytelling makes them more liable to be like, let's spend a number of episodes bringing him back through this convoluted thing. Again, lots of good stuff in the process of getting there, but once it's done, it's kind of like, all right, what about like on TNG or something where it'd be like, oh, just somebody comes from a different dimension, or their clone sister is like there or something, whatever, some one of those types of things.
The Traveler.
Traveler.
Wesley Crusher.
All right. Odds and ends.
So this happened. These people were during the time of World War III. World War III left 600 million dead. That's a lot more than the burn killed. The burn killed millions.
Yeah.
And then
World War III
III
was shit. It was some shitty shit.
Yeah, but it's like you'd think the burn would kill more than the burn, which involved like the galaxy.
But it was only really like it was people who were on ships.
Yeah,
right? In
I
the
guess
whole
you're
burn
right.
Thing.
I guess you're right.
This is some season 3 Discovery stuff.
Yeah.
So General Order 1, are you
You can listen to those podcasts where we talk all about that, James.
Would you say, do we know enough about General Order 1 to know whether it's basically if there's any difference between it and the Prime Directive?
I don't think
or is
so.
it it's just it's just
I think
evolved?
it's an evolution in term.
It definitely seems like a different way to call it.
Yeah.
Prime
Directive or General Order number 1.
General Order.
It's an order or it's a directive.
Yeah.
Maybe they got more polite later on.
Directive.
There was some people at Starfleet got a focus group together, and they're like, people don't like this.
Let's call it the first suggestion.
They don't like orders. What's a better word for order? Oh, I don't know, directive? Directive?
The fundamental
Starfleet's
instruction.
marketing arm. Starfleet has a marketing core. So it's a pretty fine gig to land in Starfleet. You get to make the pamphlets. The Starfleet recruitment pamphlets. Have you ever wanted to fly among the stars?
When they mentioned Arthur C. Clarke, that was his quote, is any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic, which makes sense because, we have the ability to basically use Wi-Fi to if we wanted to, we could make it look like through Wi-Fi we could do magic, like moving items around the room.
Go back in time with a lighter.
Yeah, right.
You're not that far back in time, by the way. Like 150, 200 years, you're probably still looking pretty cool with that.
So
I've told you this before, but I used to always have a dream when I was a kid of taking like whatever the current the current video game console, like Super Nintendo, Nintendo 64. I used to sit there at night and dream about, I want to go back in time. And I want to take this back in time to the 1950s. And I want to show kids in the 1950s, Super Mario World or Zelda.
They probably didn't have the coaxial connector.
You could rig that shit up.
Or that screw that you
fucking splice some fucking wires. I'll get it to work. Or I
that
thought about that too. I was like, I'll bring a TV. I was like, I'll bring a TV and I'll bring some like a plug adapters. I'll make sure it's not a 3-prong plug. It'll be a 2-prong plug.
I wonder
because they used to be Savages back in the 50s.
I wonder if the electrical output has changed. So it's.
I think it was still 110.
So volts. It's kind of interesting that they decided through scientists and theologians in Star Trek, according to Pike, said they reinterpreted that. So reinterpreted something that basically says. Technology looks magical to say any sufficiently advanced extraterrestrial intelligence is indistinguishable from God. I see the relation, but I don't see why they would reinterpret it to say that, because that has a kind of a different meaning, even though they're cousins of each other.
I think it's in the getting back to context is for kings, and context changes perspective. I think the context is of encountering extraterrestrial. So it becomes meaningful. A taking that particular concept and then translating
it to make it apply to them.
Yeah, and it makes sense because look at Q, right?
No.
You fucking look at him.
No,
just look at him.
I'll look at John Delancey
in season 2 of Picard. You will. God damn it.
I hope so.
He is.
If it ever comes out,
He's coming out. They're filming it right now.
Butt. It's coming out your butt.
So,
next year.
So, the Q, by a lot of measures, is a god.
Yeah.
But Picard certainly wouldn't call him that.
Yeah, it's hilarious. That's the whole humor of it. It does Harvey Picard. Just Q being a god seeming so mischievous and Picard being so exasperated and angry with God. And but not in like because whenever people get mad at God, they're like, you destroyed my life, God. Fuck you. You took my family. Oh my God. Why, God? And Picard's like, Q, get the fuck out of here, man. It's basically.
Well, and there's that great line in Tapestry when, Picard wakes up in that white heavenly space and Q walks up and Picard's like, what's going on here? Q, what's the meaning of this? He's like, you're dead, Picard, and I'm God. And even then Picard's like, nah. Picard straight up says, I refuse to believe that you're God.
We should talk about that episode.
We should. That is a good episode. We'll talk
Keep
about
that in
that
mind.
sometime soon because to get ready for more Picard action. All right, odds and ends. 9 minute and 49 second. 9 minute and 49 second long teaser. It's not the longest teaser, but it's one of the longer.
You mean the cold open?
Yeah, the cold open teaser, whatever the fuck you want to call it. Discovery has a couple long. I think Discovery has one that's like 15 minutes.
They like those long ones.
They like those long ones.
You're like watching the show and you're like, all right, I'm into the show, and then all of a sudden there's like Captain Pike or somebody like drops the mic.
Yeah.
It's all like boom, and then it goes to the theme song.
It's like, why even bother at that point?
Yeah.
Like, we already know what the hell we're watching.
Yeah. Well, it says, speaking of time markers, at 17 minutes and 40 seconds, when their planet friend dude, Jacob, says, is this your first time in New Eden? It's this side shot of him, and there's like kind of light behind him, so it almost looks like a silhouette, but it's not. But you can see his lips moving, and his lips move to, is this your first time in New Eden? But then they keep moving a little bit afterwards.
Yeah.
They move for another second after. It looks like he closes his mouth and says one more thing.
Because on the day he said, is this your first time in New Eden, motherfucker?
Oh yeah, that was what probably what
Why
it was.
aren't you in the fields?
Yeah.
Mother, father,
Mother lover.
mother lover.
Yeah. So do you think all the Luddites, like if they lived in, this is assuming they lived in the United States, what we call the United States right now, do you think they all just went to Montana or something? Or Wyoming?
I don't call that the United States.
What do you mean they?
The Luddites, the Luddite community.
You mean the one where Oshikan
Yeah.
grew up in?
Yeah.
Good question. That's another question I have. Where was it?
She does not exactly have a Montana accent.
No,
so I'm not sure
but
about that.
But I mean, it's 200
May
years.
didn't have a San Francisco accent.
That's
either,
true.
so
And
I think accents work differently in the future. Captain Picard is French and he has a British accent.
Oh,
Yeah.
shit.
And in Starship Troopers, that dude's family was from Brazil, and they were just
Yeah.
some white people.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah, that's a whole nother conversation.
Or Argentina, I believe. Same difference.
Odds and ends.
Dr. Pollard doesn't have a very big role in the show, but I kind of like her
no,
whenever
she's
she's in, because like
she's like a real fucking doctor.
yeah, when Saru's just like basically mad at Tilly saying you could have killed yourself and everyone, and he's like, Dr. Pollard, corroborate. And she's just like, he's correct, almost dead, but you're gonna be okay. It's just like it doesn't matter. So she's pretty tight. I like her.
She's super tight. I really liked the creepy, disjointed synth future music, and we commented on that in Discovery Season 3, where I think they use it more. But in Season 2, they start putting that in there, and it's sort of this underbeat. It's like it's disturbing and creepy. Exactly.
Saru refers to his species as race. He refers to the Kelpians as a race. Mm-hmm. But then in Enterprise, I think was it T'Pol who's all about saying species? Or I don't remember what Star Trek show they were saying. It's probably most of them they say. I don't know. It's probably like inertial dampers and dampeners. They probably go back and forth on different
Sensors.
ones.
And then
Sensors,
Enterprise,
yeah. Kirk doesn't say that sensor shit.
Errors.
Enterprise was, they were just getting out there. They were a little bit.
They're fumbling around.
Yeah, so you think they settled on race?
I don't know. It's
That's a racial question.
Yeah. Send us feedback at itsgotstartrek.com to set us straight about race.
Oh, yeah. Set us straight.
About race.
Rise in Mai Tais. Send us Rise in Mai Tais.
Rise in my time.
That's the sex planet, right? Or that's Risa.
Risa.
Oh, yeah,
no,
that's right.
Rising means from
Yes.
Risa.
No, that's a different one. It doesn't have the N at the end.
Hey, you know what's rising on Risa? I'll tell you
my
what's
time planet.
something's rising in my pants.
Rising in your pants.
Not if you have too many Mai Tai.
Yeah, too many cooks.
They said something about like the radioactive debris, that scene where they were trying to like get it out. Oh yeah, that one dude was giving the suggestions, like, because they were taking suggestions to how to handle this debris before they used gravity to pull out. One dude was like, just blast it with phasers. And they were like saying, that'll just give it a greater concentration. I don't understand how you blast something with a laser and it's going to give it a greater concentration.
Yeah, because of energy, maybe. It's made up. It's some made up bullshit.
It's made up bullshit.
You could argue that the made up bullshit is that the energy imparted from the phasers, it has to go somewhere. Something has to happen to it. And in this case, it's kind of like all those movies where when like in The Fifth Element, when you like shoot it with missiles, the dark planet creature that's controlling Zorg, it just gets bigger.
So you're talking about like magic, like space monsters.
If you apply violence to something, you just make it stronger.
I just thought like they meant the opposite, where it would actually lessen the concentration, so it would just spread the rocks all over the planet, messing it up more.
That is your standard problem with asteroids.
It's usually
you blow up one asteroid and you've just made more bullets.
That's the
It's like worms.
Like worms?
Like worms.
Like worms? Wait, do you blow up worms?
You cut up worms, you just get more worms.
So, I mean, it's a more likely explanation than like a universe space monster that gets bigger with energy shot at it. But
marginally.
Worms. When do you blow up your worms, Jesse?
Well, you don't blow them up. You step on them.
And to make them a greater concentration.
Or if you cut a worm in half, you just have two worms. Like,
yeah, that's weird.
So bilateral symmetry.
I thought you were saying you make a greater concentration of worms by stepping on them, and it concentrates them.
No, that's a rat king.
Yeah, it's a rat king.
That's not. I know what a rat king is, but that's not what I was talking about.
Their tails get
I know, but that's not what I was talking about.
Encrusted with feces.
I wasn't talking about that.
Set us straight, but I believe if you cut a jellyfish in half, it does the same thing.
Jellyfish is tasty.
Wait, I knew a rat king was tied up tails. Is it? I mean, it makes sense, but I never thought about it. Is it proven that there's feces involved?
I'm pretty sure that part of what causes a rat king is it's feces and other material and matted fur and stuff that clumps together and turns into sort of a glue that glues together their tails. And so when you encounter a rat king, it's just a writhing monster of trapped, starving rats that are doing their best to come and get you. It is also a prominent character on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, at least on the TV show. I don't think the Rat King was in the comics.
Yeah, I'm guessing the Rat King was a joke on that term, Rat King.
I would presume so.
I didn't get that at the time. But
Rat now.
Rat now. That's how you say it. Rat now.
Rat now.
Let's go rat now.
Odds and ends. Any more odds and ends on this fine episode of Star Trek Discovery?
I don't know.
I don't think so.
I'm not hearing any more odds and ends.
It would have sucked if that soldier's video camera just had some worthless shit on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was all pixelated.
Well, it's interesting that, I mean, those people couldn't fix it to make it work. But if they did, they would have been like, well, this is obvious proof that everything we believed is true.
Yeah, it looked like an angel.
Which is another interesting angle that this episode could have explored.
Yeah, but they just gave it up. It's like, no, here, take it. It doesn't work. I don't need it. I'll take this fucking battery.
Yeah, I was thinking like the battery was a good trade, but at the same time he didn't think about that enough. Yeah, you know?
He could have been like, well, I'll let you watch it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Why don't you make it work and I'll let you watch it?
Or we can watch it together. Maybe you can have it, but can I check it out too?
Yeah.
No, Prime Directive can't come on our ship. No, Prime Directive.
Maybe it used to
General
work.
Order 1.
Maybe it used to work, and that's one reason why they had some proof beyond the original 200 that some angel showed up and then it stopped working at some point. Again, we don't get enough details.
Yeah.
That was a good odd and end.
Oh, thanks.
I don't know whether it was an odd or an end.
It was a bit odd, it was at the end.
And it was at the end of this podcast, which we're rapidly approaching the end of the podcast.
I really gotta pee.
It's coming soon.
Dan's got to pee. The audience, they've got other shit to do. They've got other podcasts to listen to. They might be listening to Mindscapes.
Apple Podcast.
They might be giants.
They might be. Well, that's music. They could also be listening to music. But if they're listening to us on a podcast, I'm guessing that the next thing in their playlist is going to be another podcast.
Another one of our podcasts.
A probably could be. They could just be listening to It's Got Star Trek all day, mainlining It's Got Star Trek. This is the first episode they heard, and they thought these guys are great, not fully understanding that this is a particularly good episode. I'm sorry, Dan. Dan does actually have to be. So
It's okay.
Dan's got that little boy being good in church, about to piss his pants. Look, he's like, I really don't want to piss my pants because the minister will be all like, oh, that Dan. All right, so that'll do it for us. Feedback at itsgotstartrek.com. Social media at It's Got Star Trek with, the @@ symbol looks like a snail. At It's Got Star Trek on...
It looks like a snail. It does, yeah.
Snail trail. And it's on at It's Got Star Trek on Twitter and Instagram. Trail. We're on Facebook. Lots of activity on Facebook, lots of activity on Twitter, and on YouTube, because the crazy people who like listening to podcasts on YouTube. And we occasionally have some bonus content.
It's audio only, but there's
fun.
There's a visual.
There's a picture.
Yeah, it's fun.
But we put the highlights up there, and we put some bonus content up there, and you never know what could go up there next.
Could be Worms.
Could be Worms. Could be all sorts of things. But other than that, that'll do it for us this evening, and we will say goodnight. Dan will go pee. Jesse's probably just gonna be chilling there, and Jesse and I will wait for Dan to finish peeing, and then we'll be all set. So we'll report back on what happened next week.
Hey, Dan.
So in the meantime, thank you very much, and we'll be talking to you next week.
Good night.
Night.
Come.
You wanted to see me.
Yes, and don't make me laugh.
Fortunately for you, I was raised on Vulcan. We don't do funny.